Thank you all for braving it out. There is something for all of you, I can promise. This is a very accomplished panel that I have here, and you are going to go away with some pearls. The people outside or the people who are left don't know what they're missing. Right? So, firstly, thanks to CI Telangana and to Mr. Chakravarti for organizing this conference, innovating today for tomorrow's global market challenges. Sustainability, I think, has been the theme from yesterday to today. It must have gone through all the sessions. And I was earlier with the paperboards unit of ITC. So when they saw paper, they always used to ask me to speak on sustainability. So this must be the 15th or 20th time that I'm attending a conference where I'm doing something related to sustainability. Happy to do that. It is the crying need of the hour, right? So we are all concerned about our planet. And bit by bit in India, there is growing awareness, both at the consumer level, at the company level, and at the regulatory level on things that to be done. So if I have to trace, because I've been here for some time, 2014 or 13 was when the first draft rules for plastic waste management were floated. And, we finally adopted it sometime in 22. July 22 or 23, 22 is when we adopted it. So it went through such a long process. So you can imagine what was happening. But all of us are now aware of what's happening and why sustainability in general and sustainable packaging is absolutely the need of the hour. There is an EPR, an extended producer responsibility, already in place for plastic packaging and multi-layer packaging in general, including rigids. Recently, some draft rules have been notified even for other categories of packaging. So I don't know how many of you in the corporates have received notifications that the government wants to adopt some rules with respect to paperboard packaging, metal packaging, and glass packaging, with respect to whatever is the virgin content, the recycled content, the reuse content, and how we are going to go about it. So that being the nature of the animal, what does sustainable packaging actually mean? What does it mean to you? It all started, at least in the West, with some, plastic in the water, in the oceans. There are more plastic than fishes, and you know all about those things. So in India, we see every day around, about what plastic waste is doing, or waste in general, or single-use packaging is doing. And single-use packaging need not be restricted only to plastics. In general, there's also waste when you produce packaging material. So that's something that's got to be controlled or reduced to make it more efficient. Water stress. I think many areas of India are going through water stress. Okay, so I think it's important for packaging material to know both their water intensity, if I were to say the embedded intensity of making materials and packing thousands, and also the energy intensity which goes in. Energy gets directly related to your climate change, emissions, and some broader goals. I'm not getting into those areas, but we all should know what does sustainability mean. So one is about the packaging material. The larger one is about its use and what it does. And in use, there is something about, using less of it, using alternate materials, using more renewable materials, using more circular materials. What is circularity? It means that it comes back in some way. Either it comes back in the same material way, or it gets broken down into polymers, or it gets upcycled, downcycled, and all those things which we'll start exploring today. And there's the final end of life, right? So end of life has not got much attention. And at least two of my participants here are actually involved with the recycling or the recovery of the materials. And I think that's what we're going to explore a bit more today. So I have Mr. Sanjeev Jaggi, and he is the CEO of Consentia Flexibles Pharma Division. So he will give the product perspective on how his company is adapting to sustainable packaging solutions. We'll begin with him and move on to Mani Vajpayee. So he represents a new face of India, an entrepreneur who started his own business and scaled up in plastic recovery and recycling. We today have an EPR where next year, for example, one of the things we're chatting about is, do we have enough good quantity recyclate for companies to incorporate recycled content in multi-layer packaging? So if it is polyester, which we use in PET-PE kind of packaging in laminates, you have polyester which can be recovered from the rigid side and used in flexible packaging. But if you were to recover from flexible packaging, I think that's quite a tall order. So we'd like to hear your experiences of what is going to happen there and how companies like Consentia are also going to progress that. Then finally, we have Garima. So Garima has a very rich background. She's from Tata Energy Research Institute, and she's worked in a lot of environmental and sustainability related projects. She will bring a bit of a global brand perspective to the entire discussion. Okay, and they are involved in actually looking at various projects, and sustainability can be sustained financially. I think you will look at how they look at the world and how they look at India and where are the gaps, and what are the projects can be sustained. I will now begin by inviting Mr. Jaggi, Sanjeev Jaggi, to give his view on how his company is adapting to sustainable packaging challenges, okay, in his product, and also a larger view on what are the challenges and what should be the way forward. Over to you, Sanjeev.
As Venki said, appreciate your commitment to this topic, those who have stayed back, and I fully respect that. And I have a little company presentation, but before that, let me tell you, I was here. First of all, thanks also to Mr. Chakravarti and CII for giving us this opportunity. Yesterday also, we were discussing on new regulations that are happening in Europe. And this is coming about because packaging is essential. We cannot live without packaging. It's becoming a demon, how we handle that packaging. And that is why it's getting more and more challenging. And therefore, as I mentioned yesterday, and some of you who were not there yesterday, we will be aware that there's a new pharma packaging waste regulation by the European Union introduced in 2024 mid. And this is becoming a law and getting applicable from beginning of next year. This means there are a lot of guidelines to be followed, not only by companies operating within Europe, but those who are even delivering into Europe or doing any business. There are penalties, heavy at times, which are going to be enforced if it is not implemented in totality. There are some exceptions made in the immediate pharma packaging rules because the thinking was that if there is a contamination of the medicine on the packaging and that is getting recycled, it may eventually lead to an issue. So there are some exemptions, but nutraceuticals, food products, all these are covered totally within that gamut. And there were other regulations also, but briefly, some of them who don't know about my company, let me give you a brief overview. So we are a Vienna headquartered global flexible packaging company. We have roughly 10,000 employees worldwide, 36 production sites in 16 countries. We are predominantly present in Europe, but of course we cater across the world and including America, Middle East and Asia. Our production is largely based on aluminium foil, which is a captive product for us, but we also do non-aluminium based consumer packaging, film-based and paper-based laminates. But these non-aluminium products are more for the consumer segment and less for the pharma segment. That is, as of some time ago, we have now introduced certain specialities for the pharma packaging, which are also doing without aluminium. We, as I said, headquartered in Austria, Vienna. We are largely owned by One Rock, a private equity. So sustainability, as the session talks about, is indeed our focus area. And we, the very first one is, until recently, we were EcoVadis Gold. And we're proud to say that earlier this year, we have been now upgraded to an EcoVadis Platinum grade, which means that less than 1% of the companies worldwide have this level of certification, and we are proud to say we are now EcoVadis Platinum. We are working in the direction of 100% renewable energies wherever available and set a target by 2030. We have 73% of electricity consumption coming from renewable facilities already. We have 85% of waste was sent to recycling in 2023, and that's a big challenge. I will touch that topic as well. And of course, we have more than 120 certifications, including SMETA, including all kinds of ISO and very highest levels of them. So recyclable, we work with responsibility and have responsible sourcing. We work in the direction of collection, sorting, recycling, and we have a target of 100% packaging solution designed for recycling by 2025. Design of the packaging is, as we heard in the morning as well, is a starting point. A child is born with the right designing. And we are working in the direction of 100% packaging solutions for recycling by 2025. We already have 91% of our products are already designed for recycling or has a recyclable alternative. And by 2023, 66% of our packaging sold has been designed for for recycling. We are in the consumer segment and the pharma segment. I'm responsible for the pharma segment, but the who's who of the world are part of our business portfolios. We manufacture globally, and this I show you we have 36 plants across the world, spread across the globe, including in India we have, and then of course in Vietnam, but our mother plants are largely in Austria, Germany, Spain, and US, from where we deliver into the world, including India, for those pharma companies who are sending their final products to the regulated markets, be it cold forms, alu-alus, desiccant embedded alu-alus, etc. We have a completely integrated production system where we start. Our raw materials are aluminium foil, which we roll in-house in one of our sites in Austria. We have various processes. Rolling is an in-house process, blown film extrusion, lacquering, laminating, pre-press. We have our own in-house pre-press cylinders. We have multiple printing solutions, including flexo, rotogravure, and digital printing. And digital printing was introduced for pharma because some requirements are, I want only 10 kilos or 5 kilos for my very high net worth. And that's possible on a digital printing, which we offer from our UK sites. I'll skip these because of paucity of time. But EHS is again a very, very critical direction for us as a company. And we protect all our assets, especially personnel, contractors, equipment, reputation, environment, machinery. We comply with all the regulations in the regions that we operate in, and we have a huge focus towards lost time injury frequency rate reduction. We invest in innovation. We have a global R&D network spread across Europe where we do R&D on aluminium, on films, on different packaging materials. But these are, so I will skip all these. These are all, I will skip them for paucity of time. But sustainability, we envisage a world in which packaging provides people with the highest benefit at the lowest impact on the environment. This is our driver for sustainability. We have an ESG roadmap. We have reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. We have recyclability of products, sustainability and collaboration along the value chain, and then of course health, safety work, talent attraction, health and safety of consumers, and business ethics are all part of our DNA. We have sustainability solutions. We work 360 degrees approach, and I was mentioning to some people, we have developed over the last few years mono-material, multi-layered, high-barrier films. So, as I mentioned yesterday, even Amul milk is a multi-layered mono-material, but with limited shelf life, 5-7 days. We've developed now innovations based with very high shelf lives, of course no match to aluminium, but up to 8 and 9 months we can provide. These are PP based, which is delivered out of Spain, and we have PE based, which is delivered out of India. So we basically work in the direction of not supplying packaging material, but helping save lives of millions of patients through ensuring that the drug produced by our customers reaches the consumer and the patient in the way it is meant to be. Let's skip these. So that was a brief introduction about the company. Now coming to what we are doing. As I said, one is sustainable mono-material, multi-layered packaging. We are also now proud to say that we have now started working in a small way with what is called a low carbon aluminium, LCA. We've analyzed that the aluminium value chain, starting from mining to casting to rolling, etc., is energy intensive, but at up to a point. After that, the energy levels are reduced, and therefore we have now, with the aluminium suppliers from Europe, they have developed a low carbon aluminium. Now what this means is that if we were to use this, typically for a blister, the carbon footprint is reducing by 35%. It's not available very abundantly yet. It is available in limited fashion, but this is available and offered now to our pharma customers worldwide in a select way, and this is going to help our customers reduce their carbon footprints as well. So this is an innovation we are doing on this, and I am open to some questions as we go along, but I will hand it over to the colleagues.
That brings me on to Mani Vajpayee. So where is the gap between design for recycling and the actual recycling that happens? I mean, that is what sustainable packaging is all about, at least in terms of recovery and then recycling. Over to you. We'd like to hear your perspectives. You are somebody who's been at it for the last 7-8 years after you founded your company, after you came from abroad, and you have built up the recycling business. What do you see as the challenges in the new framework? How are you getting ready? And where are the gaps still? Will we meet our recycled content target next year, for example?
Sure. I'll just take the next half an hour. No, just kidding. I'm trained to do 30-second pitches in 3 minutes, so I can be off real quick. So rarely did policy ever have this kind of catalytic effect in the markets. I believe that Indian government, particularly on the EPR framework for plastics, has done a phenomenal job. I'll give you some quick numbers. I think everybody knows that 30% recycled content for rigids, 10% for monomaterial and 5% for MLP is what the government has mandated next year. These are eminently achievable. And I felt that India's EPR policy is probably one of the most progressive policies in the world when it comes to driving extended producer responsibility. First is it has catalyzed the entire industry to take up all the elements of sustainability, right from design for recyclability to collection to actually working with companies like Banyan Nation in partnering and championing sustainable solutions. I'll give you a quick case study. Back in 2017 and 2018, a company like Unilever had already started its work on incorporating recycled content into its rigid packaging. Today, almost all of the top brands that you are all familiar with, like Surf Excel, Comfort, Vaseline, Dove, they all use in excess of 30% and in some cases 60 to 70% recycled plastics. For the rigids. So the question of incorporation of 30% recyclable materials, either in PET or in polyolefins, which is PP and PE, is a very well solved problem statement. First, in terms of the capacities in PET, I think you quite well understand that over $800 million of investments have been funneled into the Indian recycling ecosystem in the last 5 years alone. After the government had announced these regulations, dozens, if not hundreds of startups have been able to raise Series A and Series B, and we've been one of the biggest beneficiaries of that policy as well. Now, Banyan Nation, as you know, works with over 70 brands in the country today on the rigid fractions, and I think I'm happy to take this offline and describe to you all the technologies in PET, PP and PE that can further the achievement of compliance in the rigid segment. Now, coming to flexibles, and I'm really thrilled to be part of this panel with Constantia as well. They've been the market leader for a while. We've recently launched our flexibles. So we've translated all the innovations in our supply chain. And for the uninitiated, let me give you a 30-second spiel. I'm so sorry to be taking your time. So what we do is we work with thousands of kabadiwalas, bhandiwalas and raddiwalas in our country, in all the southern states in India. The kabadiwalas are trained by Banyan Nation to segregate the plastic based on certain quality specifications. So think of it as, like Mishra ji was mentioning in the morning, what Amul does to milk, we do to plastics. So we train the kabadiwalas to segregate the plastic based on certain quality specifications, whether it is film or whether it is rigid, and also further in terms of the polymer, whether it is PET, PP or PE. And further within polyethylene, you have injection grade, extrusion grade and blow grade. So this sort of sophistication already exists within the informal sector. And I keep saying this, and I'd like to reiterate this. If ever there was an Olympics for recycling, that is one medal would have definitely won in the last 50 years, because India's informal value chain is phenomenal.
Unaided by any sensor or automation, is it? Unaided by any...
That's a great point. Unaided by any sensor and automation. I'd actually like to add that it's a great question. Many of the innovations that we see today in terms of putting in a watermark in the polymer is primarily addressed at the Western solutions of segregating. What are the Western solutions of segregating? Humans basically are not primarily engaged in the gig economy of recycling in the Western ecosystems. So for example, if you go to New York and then they'll say, we are going to put a reverse vending machine at every block in New York. Think of Hyderabad. I'm going to give you some very good numbers. Hyderabad has about 12 million people, give or take. There are 3,000 kabadiwalas or the stationery aggregators at every street corner in Hyderabad. I'll give you more math here. For every square kilometer in Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, we've mapped about 25 cities in India. For every square kilometer, there are 4 kabadiwalas. And the reason for that is, for every 250 homes, there is one kabadiwala. Meaning that the quantum of waste that 250 homes generate in India, whether it is cardboard, paper, plastic, can be collected, aggregated and segregated in a space of 500 square feet. And that is how India has evolved over the last 50 years. So the supply, think of kabadiwalas as your kirana stores. Think of kabadiwalas as your small acreage farmers. And think of your kabadiwalas as the small milk farmer. Just as we had layered microfinance elements to give them loan, to give them credit, the fat testing meter to test the quality of milk. Similarly, all these solutions that India had put in past to solve other complexities and other challenges can be very well applied, as Mishraji mentioned in the morning. So this is a model that lends itself very well to the Indian context. I know I'm taking, you can cut me off anytime. I don't have much to add. You can cut me off anytime. So the supply chain, I believe, is the bedrock on which the EPR regulation will be successful. Venki, so that I bring back to the question on hand here. I think India has a fabulous supply chain. India's gig economy is phenomenal. And Banyan Nation's work is a testament to that, because we today do 15,000 tons of recycling, supplying to over 70 brands, primarily through the informal sector. 95% of our sourcing works through informal sector.
But you're solving the problem in rigids, not yet in multi-layer.
So just, okay, I will take this.
But we'll take this. Let me get Garima also in. Otherwise, she'll feel a bit left out. Shouldn't let that happen. So Garima will give us the, as I said, the brand perspective and what's happening in a larger scale across the world and how they look at India in terms of sustainable packaging and the opportunities there.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much, first of all, Mr. Chakraborty, for inviting me. Thank you to the CII delegation. It's wonderful to have been here. Though my session was today, I came yesterday itself and I listened to most of the presentations. Wonderful, gathering of the speakers and delegation. Now I know I'm short of time, so I'll be very, very quick in terms of what I can add value beyond what speakers have already spoken about. To those who don't know what Alliance to End Plastic Waste is, APW is a global not-for-profit which is working on ending plastic pollution and building plastic circular economy. How? We provide funds to partners who can and basically de-risk, deploy and develop solutions on ground. In developed economies, our solutions are more on recycling and more advanced level. In developing countries like in India, it's mostly on collection and segregation. Because as Mani said, there are realities which are very, very, known to India and a country similar to this. In India so far, we are supporting about 12 projects. Now, what exactly are these projects? As I said, most of them are solving the challenge of collection and segregation. If I can think of packaging, see, we all know how important packaging is. We all know, that a lot of R&D is already happening. Even brands are working on material design and aspects like that. But if I look at present scenario, the situation where we are today, much of the recyclable packaging waste goes waste because there is lack of plastic waste management infrastructure or correct way to segregate that waste at the ground level itself. That's the biggest challenge. Otherwise, the kind of story India has written in case of PET, a similar story can happen in case of flexibles also. But then flexibles are a tough to collect category. Imagine the informal worker, how many times he has to actually bend to collect at the end of the day the required money that he is looking for. So until we are able to create right economic incentives at the grassroots level, thinking about that person who's working on ground in such challenging circumstances, we will not be able to create the same story. B, most importantly, is the financing part. See, as I see, as somebody who has been in this sector for almost close to more than 15 years and having worked at odd levels, I think the biggest need is to finance. The big development financing institutions need to look at plastic waste or waste separately. If I can recollect, 2007, when climate change partners was all starting, and look at the way where we have reached today, that there's a World Bank program on climate change, and look at the kind of climate financing where we led to. Similar story we need in case of, waste or packaging sector also. So financing is the most critical part. How Alliance works is basically we raise money from members. So companies like Dow, BSF, in India we have Reliance, Uflex, HMEL, which are